Okay, these are the most important things that you're more likely to forget when you're doing the double exposure. So if I'm not in lesson to help you, please refer back to this video. So as a good example, I'm going to use the bear picture by Andreas Live for the double exposure. So in this one, it's nice and simple. You've got a colored background, you've got the animal, and then you've got the double exposure part of it, which is kind of like this forest scene that's blending into the bear's fur in the background. So I've gone on Unsplash. I have just chosen a couple of basic images. I've got a forest, I've got a bear, and I've got a background color that I'm going to use. I'll show you. I've shown you this bit in lesson, but take whatever object you want to have, person, item, animal, and have it cut out from the background if you're going to have something that looks like Andreas' one here, where it's got a clean background like this. If you don't need to cut it out, don't bother about that. You can skip this step. So have the image so that it's just the thing that you need. So I'm just going to quickly cut out all of the background of this object, leave the bear behind, do a really quick job of it. Make sure my layer is rasterized so I can edit it and delete the background. Right, so now, nice and simple, I've got my bear and I've got my background, and I'm going to try and double expose the two. So get the objects to be roughly the right size that you want. So I'm going to have just a little bit of the forest sticking up through the back of the bear. And then to get them to overlap in the first place, go over here to your layers and make sure you have what you think is the background on top. Once that's on top, hold the Alt button on your keyboard and hover the mouse over the line here. When you see the symbol change, when it hovers over, click it, and your background will take the shape of the bear. Now, the thing that I've gone on about in lesson quite a lot is if you are doing double exposure, both layers need to have a layer mask on. So navigate from the layer panel, go down, and this little symbol that kind of looks like a little Japanese flag, give both layers a layer mask. This is where you do the painting. So if you're ever doing any removing or adding to your layers, you need to be in one of these two boxes. When you're in these boxes, go to the left side of the page over here to the brush tool, and you're only ever going to use black and white. So you can click the little double arrow to flick between the two of them. Now, right click anywhere on the page if you want to make your pen bigger or smaller, or if you want to make it harder or less, harder or softer. I tend to leave it at 0 hardness for this sort of stuff. Make it a little bit bigger. Now, if I have black selected and I'm on my first layer, got to be in the mask, and I paint over it, the bear is going to start to appear from inside. So the bear will start to appear on top. So that's, I'm kind of removing the forest. If I want to undo my stuff, go back to the colors, swap it back to white, and wherever I paint, the below image is going to start to come through. So going back to the artist picture really quickly, I want the bottom of this image to be the bear and the top of it to be the background. So on mine, I need to be on my bear layer on the right mask, and I'm just going to paint the whole thing in to start with. Then I'm going to start to retract it. So I'm going to start from the top, but I'm removing everything because the opacity of my brush is at 100. If you navigate to the top of the page up here, you can change your brush opacity. I'd say somewhere around 20 is a good thing to use, and it'll soften the amount that you take away from your image. You're going to have to click each time that you kind of want to remove some more. So I'm just going to start to remove mine so it's kind of blending in a little bit with the rest of the image. So the bear's fur and the trees kind of start to become very similar to each other, and it's hard to tell what is starting where. So that's a really fast bit of a hack job, but it's done really quickly and it kind of shows you the premise of it. On this one, you can see some of the texture of the bear at the top of the picture as well. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that back using the black. I'm going to make it very light, turn my opacity really low, and you'll be able to see some of the texture of the bear kind of appearing back through a little bit here and then, and kind of blend his face in here a little bit so it matches with that a little bit. So that is a really, really quick version of doing that one. You want to match the colors a little bit better. On mine, the background is green, the bear is brown. On this, the background is orange, the bear is orange. So it works a lot better. But this is just to simply remind you in case you've forgotten anything. On the second layer, if you want to blend the background image, so the silhouette, if you want to get rid of that, you need to be on the second layer mask. And where I paint now, if it's 100, it will remove what is there in the background. So if I wanted to blend my bear into the background of the image, so he starts to become part of the background, every time I click, I can start to remove more and more and more and more of it. So he'll sort of fade away into the background of the image. This isn't that relevant for everyone, but if one or two of you really want to blend your object into the background, into the scenery of your image, this is the best way to do it. So mine is now starting to become less about the shape of the bear and more about the shape kind of the forest. If I want to be really picky, I can change my brush size to be a bit smaller and I can start to work inside some of these gaps so that the bear really does start to blend in with the background rather than the image. Really nice and simple. So you've got to think carefully about what you want your subject matter to be and then start being really careful, little bits of painting here and there. It really is a case of artistry, this. It's just being how good are you with painting on Photoshop and how clever is your idea that you're trying to execute and how well can you blend it together. So those are the most important things. At any point, your layers should sort of look like this. Image, image, background with masks on your image layers.